buckle up, folks, because we're tackling Freud today, and that means things are going to get a little, spicy.
Spicy is one way to put it. I mean, when you think about it, so much of what Freud was talking
It all
about,
boils down to sex, right?
well, he called it libido, this sort of primal psychic energy. But yeah, he believed it was the driving force behind, well, pretty much everything we do. Pleasure, survival, you name it. It all ties back to this libido.
So, like, not just the obvious stuff.
Right, even things like, I don't know, your ambition to get that promotion or the satisfaction you feel when you finish a tough workout. Freud might say it's all libido, just channeled in different ways.
Okay, so it's kind of like this invisible hand pushing us towards things that feel good and help us, survive and thrive.
Yeah, exactly. But it gets a little more complicated. Freud also introduced this idea of a death drive thanatos, which is kind of the opposite of libido. It represents this urge towards self-destruction, this sort of pull towards chaos.
So it's like a constant battle within us, this drive for life and pleasure versus this pull towards darkness.
You got it. And how we navigate that conflict shapes who we become. And that's where his theories about psychosexual development come into play.
Yes, this is where things get a little, what we say, controversial. We're talking about those stages like the oral, anal, and the phallic phases, right?
You're not wrong. I mean, a lot of Freud's interpretations, especially around sexuality, are definitely debated today. You got to remember, he was writing in a very different time.
I mean, it's still fascinating, though, right? This idea that our early experiences, even as babies, can have such a profound impact on who we become as adults.
Absolutely. But then you've got to factor in society, right? All these rules and expectations that tell us what's acceptable and what's not. And that's where Freud's concept of repression comes in.
So basically, when society tells us to shove those natural urges down, they don't just disappear, do they?
Nope. Freud would say they kind of fester in the unconscious, and that can lead to all sorts of psychological issues. Anxiety, obsessive behaviors, you name it.
So it's like our mind finds all these sneaky ways to express those pent-up urges. But wait, didn't Freud also talk about sublimation? Isn't that a healthier way to deal with all this?
He did, and that's where things get a bit more hopeful. Sublimation is this idea that we can redirect that energy, that libido, into something more socially acceptable. Art, work, even intense exercise.
So my daily gym routine is actually my libido in disguise.
Huh. Well, maybe. The point is we can take that raw energy and channel it into something productive. And, it's not just Freud who talked about this. Thinkers like Nietzsche explored similar ideas about channeling primal energy into creative pursuits.
Okay, so we've got Freud over here saying libido is this all-powerful force. But then you've got others, like, wasn't it Jung, who saw things differently?
Right. Jung believed our motivations were way more diverse, that it wasn't all just about this one primal urge. And, that's what's so cool about exploring these ideas. There's no easy answer. Humans are complicated.
It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle, and each theory is a different piece.
Exactly. And sometimes the pieces don't fit perfectly, but they make us think. They make us question our assumptions.
So even with all the controversy around Freud, he's still got us talking about what makes us tick, right?
No doubt. He might not have had all the answers, but he asked the right questions. He got us thinking about the hidden forces that drive our behavior, all the stuff bubbling beneath the surface.
And that's what makes this whole exploration so fascinating, isn't it? It's not just about libido as some abstract concept, but it's about us, about what makes us human, the desires, the drives, the stuff that shapes who we are.
Well said. And that's what makes this deep dive so exciting. We're on this journey to uncover the mysteries of human behavior, and there's still so much more to explore.
Well, I'm definitely hooked. So where do we go from here? We've got this foundation with Freud, but I'm ready to see how inner thinkers tackled this whole question of human motivation.
Let's do it. Let's journey beyond Freud and see what other perspectives have to offer. All right, so ready to move beyond all that libido talk?
Yeah, I think I've had my fill of Freud for one day. So where are we headed next in our quest to understand human motivation?
Well, let's fast forward a bit, a few centuries actually, and talk about Abraham Maslow.
Oh yeah, Maslow. Didn't he come up with that whole hierarchy of needs thing?
Exactly. He basically argued that, our motivations aren't random. We're driven by this innate desire to fulfill certain needs, starting with the most basic ones.
Right, it's like that pyramid, right? With survival stuff at the bottom, like food and shelter. And then as you move up, it's things like love, belonging, and eventually like self-actualization at the very top.
You got it. And the key idea here is that, we can't really focus on those higher level needs until those basic ones are met.
Yeah, makes sense. Hard to be thinking about composing a symphony when you're starving or feeling unsafe.
Exactly. So first things first, got to take care of those survival needs. And once those are handled, then we naturally start striving for more. connection, belonging, a sense of accomplishment, all those things that, make us feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves.
So we're constantly reaching for that next level on the pyramid, always striving for that sense of fulfillment.
You could say that. And for Maslow, the ultimate goal, the pinnacle of human motivation, is this idea of self-actualization.
Ah, yes, self-actualization. That sounds amazing, but also kind of, I don't know, intimidating. Is it even possible to actually achieve that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, Maslow saw it as an ongoing process, this journey of growth and self-discovery that unfolds throughout our lives. And honestly, it probably looks different for everyone. For some people, it might be expressed through creativity, art or music. For others, it might be about service to others or, becoming a leader in their field.
So it's not so much about reaching a specific destination, but more about the journey itself.
That's a great way to put it. And it's a journey that, can take us through some pretty rough terrain. I mean, think about someone like Viktor Frankl. He found meaning and purpose even in, a concentration camp. His work really highlights this idea that, well, even in the face of incredible adversity, we still have this capacity for growth and this ability to choose how we respond to those challenges.
That's powerful stuff. So we've got Freud with his focus on libido, Maslow with his hierarchy of needs, but where does our own free will fit into all of this? I mean, don't we have some say in what motivates us?
Absolutely. And that's where this theory called self-determination theory comes in.
Self-determination theory. Tell me more.
Okay, so this theory was developed by these two psychologists, Edward D.C. and Richard Ryan. And they basically argue that we have these three fundamental psychological needs: competence, autonomy, and relatedness.
So it's not just about unconscious urges or, being driven by external rewards. We actually have control over this whole motivation thing.
Yeah, self-determination theory really emphasizes this idea that, well, we want to feel capable and effective, we want to make our own choices, and we want to connect with others in meaningful ways. These are like fundamental human drives.
It makes sense when you think about it. I mean, it's way more satisfying to, pursue a hobby or a career that you're genuinely passionate about rather than something you feel forced into.
Exactly. And when those needs for competence, autonomy, and relatedness are met, well, that's when we experience what they call intrinsic motivation. It's that drive that comes from within, fueled by genuine interest and enjoyment.
So it's all about finding those activities that, light us up, challenge us in a good way, and let us express ourselves authentically.
You nailed it. And that sense of intrinsic motivation, it's a powerful thing. It can fuel creativity, make us more persistent, and even, boost our overall well-being.
So we've talked a lot about the theory of motivation from Freud's libido to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, even this idea of self-determination. But how do we actually use all this, in real life?
That's the big question, right? It's one thing to understand the concepts, but how do we actually put them into practice?
Yeah, how do we translate all this into something we can actually use to, boost our motivation, live better lives, all that?
Well, one really powerful tool is setting goals.
Goals, huh? I feel like I'm always setting goals, and, well, you know how that goes.
It's not just about setting any old goal, though. They have to be meaningful. Goals that really resonate with you, with your values, with what you actually want to achieve in life.
So not just lose 10 pounds or get a promotion.
Right. It's got to be deeper than that. Think about what really matters to you. What kind of impact do you want to make? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? That's where the real motivation comes from.
I like that. So it's about connecting with those deeper aspirations. But what about when motivation just seems to vanish? Like when procrastination takes over and you just can't seem to get anything done.
We've all been there. One thing that can help is breaking down big, overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
So instead of, trying to write a whole book, I should just focus on one chapter at a time.
Exactly, or even just one page. The point is to make it feel less daunting. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way. Each step forward, no matter how small, it builds momentum.
And momentum is key, right? It's like once you get the ball rolling, it's easier to keep it moving.
Totally. And speaking of keeping things moving, don't underestimate the power of your environment.
Environment? You mean like where I work or the people I surround myself with?
Yeah, all of that. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, who encourage you. Find mentors, join communities, people who are going to support you on your journey.
It's like having a personal cheerleading squad. And I can make a huge difference, right? Especially when things get tough.
Oh, for sure. And, while we're talking about support, let's not forget about self-care.
Self-care, that's important for motivation.
Absolutely. You can't expect to be, firing on all cylinders if you're running on empty. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, eating well, doing things that, bring you joy and help you relax.
So it's about taking care of yourself holistically. Mind, body, and spirit.
Exactly. Because when you feel good, you're more likely to be motivated and productive. But here's the thing. Motivation, it's not like a switch you can just flip on and off. It's going to fluctuate. There will be days when you feel unstoppable and, well, days when you just want to stay in bed.
It's like the weather, right? You can't control it, but you can learn to adapt.
I love that analogy. So be kind to yourself when you're having those low motivation days. Give yourself permission to rest, to recharge, and then, gently nudge yourself back into action when you're ready.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Pushing yourself, but also knowing when to eve up a bit.
Exactly. And remember, this whole motivation thing, it's not about being perfect. It's not about, being productive every single minute of every day. It's about cultivating this mindset, this set of tools that helps you navigate the ups and downs of life,
So it's less about finding motivation and more about creating it, nurturing it, making it work for you.
You got it. And at the end of the day, it's a deeply personal journey. It's about exploring what truly lights you up, what makes you feel alive, what gives you that sense of purpose.
It's about finding your own unique path, your own unique way of being motivated and engaged in the world.
Exactly. We have more power than we think. Even amidst all the chaos and demands of life, we have this ability to choose how we respond, how we engage, how we shape our own experiences.
That's a really empowering thought. So it's not just about understanding these theories of motivation. It's about using them to create lives that are meaningful and fulfilling, right?
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's been a pleasure diving into this with you.
Likewise, this has been such an insightful deep dive. We've explored so much, from Freud's libido to Maslow's needs to this idea of self-determination. I feel like I have a much better grasp of what motivation really is,
Me too. And remember, this is just the beginning. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep learning what truly motivates you.
That's great advice. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into human motivation. Until next time, keep those inner sparks alive.